So I've been glazing this Penguin HBO series for about 2 years because I really enjoyed seeing Colin Farrell's Penguin, or Oz as they call him in the Batman. I love Matt Reeves' interpretation of Gotham and making the city more of a character in itself than any other live action Gotham we've seen before. Also, I was interested on the filmmakers and actors that were put together in this project, but never thought that the Penguin would be better than I had ever imagined. Some of the best acting that you will ever see this year, movie and TV, especially with Colin Farrell as Oz, Christian Milioti as Sophia Falcone, and Deirdre O'Connell as Frances Cobb, aka Oz's mom. Lauren LaFranc, who's the showrunner of The Penguin, did a fantastic job growing these characters, progressing the plot, and just making the show effective to the point that fans like myself are making the Batman Part 2 their most anticipated movie in the next few years. But what got me fascinated about The Penguin after watching it was that Matt Reeves and Lauren LaFranc are using recent political events as an allegory for their universe. Now, audiences have interpreted filmmakers using politics as an allegory for their movies or television shows before, especially for the most recent Batman film properties in the 21st century. In Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, there were theories that those movies were an allegory to the Bush administration in the 2000s. In September 11, 2001, 19 terrorists from the Islamic group known as Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 commercial airplanes. One airplane crashed into the Pentagon, another crashed into the rural Pennsylvania, and the other 2 crashed into the Twin Towers in New York, formerly known as the World Trade Center. The response from the Bush administration led to a war on terror known as the Iraq War. The Iraq War resulted to thousands of people dying, torture, and the issues of surveillance in America. Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, which Nolan in interviews has said he did not intend to do an allegory of the Bush administration in any of the Batman movies, do have similarities to the Bush presidential era. Heath Ledger's Joker is a representation of terrorists from the tape recordings Joker does in the movie, taking hostages to attacking civilians during a public event. You can even argue that Batman, Harvey Dent, and Commissioner Jim Gordon represents American innocence, which is America being 100% safe and is for the greater good. Harvey Dent represents the innocence of America, Batman represents the complexity of where America is, and Jim Gordon deciding which side the American public needs to face. So if you analyze the themes and the actions The Dark Knight was showing, you can see how fans can interpret the decisions the movie makes as an allegory to the Bush administration era. It's very similar to my theory that Matt Reeves, the Batman, is making an allegory to his universe, but on the Trump administration. Now, with Matt Reeves, the Batman, the allegory is the 2016 election to the recent 2024 elections, and there are multiple ways to look at it. Referencing the Trump era politics and comic book media in particular is nothing new. We've seen the references in the MCU before, and especially The Boys when it comes to Homelander and his antics. The Batman is more subtle with their allegory, but when you look at the details of the universe, it is there. And not just Trump, but the lead up to him being president as well. The Riddler is known as this over-the-top character that robs banks, and his gimmick is to leave riddles for Batman to find.
Somebody tell me! Do you hear me? Somebody tell me how he did it! I have to know! I have to know!
Paul Dano does an amazing job creating this new persona of the Riddler as a serial killer that leaves riddles. But as Edward Nashton, he's a 4chan, Reddit, and need to touch grass type of person. Paul Dano made this comic called The Riddler Year One, and it's a prequel to the Batman. The comic gives you an insight on the Riddler beginnings working as an accountant, but you'll see that he's going through anxiety, depression, and male loneliness. They show the Riddler in the comic listening to a self-help podcast. In these past elections, there has been a discussion on male loneliness and how it led to men 18 to 29 being related to them being attracted to the right-wing side of the internet. The Penguin HBO series, we follow Oz and his rise to power, claiming the King of Gotham as the next great kingpin. Oz is a man that was underestimated by all the powers around him. He's a yapper who can talk his way out of anything, can influence people that consider themselves outsiders, and he keeps a thread of hair on top of his head. Now, who does that sound like to you? What clicked for me with Penguin was the courtroom scene in the last episode, A Great or Little Thing. Before Oz tries to take down Sophia, he meets with this councilman who he made a deal with an episode before to turn on the electricity in the neighborhood. Him, his protege Victor, and his mom was hiding at. Oz is basically telling this councilman to put all the bad things that he has done and put it on Sophia along with her wrongdoing so the councilman can be a hero to the city. The councilman asks, and in return, and Oz wants to be a part of Gotham's political group and now wants to become a mayor. That's when a light bulb in my brain kicked in and said, they're building on to this year's election. The character in the Penguin that made it even more clearly for me that LaFranc and Reeves could go even further with this political direction is Victor. Victor is the best well-written and most important character in the Penguin. Renzi Velez does a phenomenal job playing this character as good as he did because he makes us sympathetic towards him and help us understand his position in the show. Victor represents the everyday people that are lower class or at least toward middle class. Paying rent that you can't afford, losing jobs, not being able to go to college, losing family in a tragic event, and other issues with the 9-1%ers in America. Victor was easily influenced by Oz because he felt underestimated, that he don't matter, and that Oz was the only one that was able to do something for his neighborhood, bringing electricity back. In the last episode, Victor was so enamored with Oz that he even considered him family. Then when Penguin put Victor in the chokehold and killed him, it hit even harder for me. No matter who you think is helping you, they're just putting on an act. The leaders, especially the politicians, can talk a good talk, but most of them just care about being in the top position than actually helping the 9-to-5 working people. This Matt Reeves Batman universe is eerily similar to the political culture we have going on at this current time. People having to choose two evils, some even believing fully to that evil, and in the end, it still doesn't help their situation. The Riddler and Victor both represent the people that are tired of being lied to and just want someone that can really make a change in their environment. The Riddler choosing to go to put matters into his own hands, and Victor who just wants to have a path to something better than his current situation. I didn't even get into Mayor Bellarelle can potentially be Kamala Harris, and how if she relates to the Court of Owls in any way in the future, it can further lead to the political culture I've been spewing. The fact that the monologue Robert Pattinson's Batman in the beginning and end of the movie says the exact dates of this year's election is wild to me. So I can't wait to see where Reeves and LaFranc goes with this Batverse, the next phase of Penguin, how it critiques the political culture we're currently in, and the years to come.